Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Creepy Scary. Get comfortable and let us begin tonight's presentation. I don't have many friends in my neighborhood these days because I live in that house. You know the one, the big old house, the one the older kids and parents tell youngsters to stay away from because it's haunted. There's a creepy old man who eats children living there. I have lived in this street longer than anyone else, since I was a young boy myself. I've seen it go from a few fancy mansions to them gradually being sold off, the land sectioned up into smaller and smaller lots. The town took a nosedive about 15 years ago. It has recently had a resurgence with what they call gentrification. Bearded men with tattoos fixing up rundown properties. The price of a cup of coffee tripled overnight. The houses are smaller, but every 6 months they cost more to buy. When we first moved here, there were only 6 families in the street, all successful people, but not rich. Hard workers who owned businesses like the ice cream parlor or hardware store. The place is dotted up and down Main Street. It seemed like a new store opened every week at one time. When the coming soon sign went up, there was great excitement in the town. You heard things like, "It's what we need. There's never any good fresh bait in Brenton's tackle shop. At last, I can get my shoes repaired locally instead of driving all the way to Danton." My dad was the local insurance guy. It was pretty smart of him. He was the only one. If someone new moved into town, he was at their door before they unloaded the first piece of furniture from the truck. He also invited them to dinner at our house the same night. If they didn't buy insurance when he first met them, he would get them later after a few drinks. Everyone in town went to him for their insurance. He was a solid human being who people trusted. He didn't need to hard sell. He had a captive audience and he was a master showman. "Charlie," he used to say to me, "selling is like making movies. The good actors get the best parts and make the most money. Put on a show and you can sell anything." Our house was always full of our friends or our parents' friends or Dad's clients. There was something going on every day. It teemed with life and was the center of action on the street. We didn't lock the doors. Everyone was free to come and go as they pleased. It was that house back then as well, but for different reasons. My dad died when I was 9. Mum raised my sister Leslie and me alone and struggled to pay the bills. We came close to losing the house several times, but somehow Mum always found a way. At first, the many friends my parents had in the town all rallied together and helped us out, but you can't expect that to last forever. Mum had a breakdown a few months after Dad died. They had been high school sweethearts. They met and had seen each other every day since. Mum ended up selling the insurance business. The money helped us transition and adjust, but it only went so far. Things got tighter and tighter, and the money soon ran out. Mum never recovered. She had always been a strong and able lady, the life and soul of the party. Her and Dad were the ultimate double act. In the rare instance he couldn't land a client, Mum's personality and exuberance won them over every time. Dad's death broke her heart and broke her. The other kids in my class went off to college, but I had to get a job the day I left school. I needed to keep an eye on Mum. I couldn't leave. Things got bad at home. I noticed fresh, empty vodka bottles in the trash every evening after work. Mum stopped working and sat in front of the TV all day. I had to tiptoe around the house so I didn't upset her. She smoked and drank and became distant and closed down. We still sat and spoke sometimes. She would have a few lucid moments now and then. She almost always spoke about Dad. Whenever she mentioned him, her face lit up and my real mum was there, alive and vibrant, but then gone again all too soon. It was usually a similar conversation. I would walk into the room and she would be smiling. "Your father and I want you to get into insurance. You can't do physical work when you're 60, you know." "I know, Mum. I'm working on it. I would love to honor his memory and rekindle the old business." "Honor his memory? Don't tell me. You can tell him yourself. He is standing right next to you. You guys don't seem to speak to each other anymore." "Mum, Dad's dead. I wish I could speak to him." "Silly boy, you're so funny. Now get me a top-up while your father and I speak about grown-up things." I would leave the room and come back with a drink, and she had already slipped back into her coma, the brightness in her eyes extinguished once again. My sister got a scholarship to college and had left home by then. She was a talented singer and dancer. Her trips back home from New York became less and less frequent each year. I was glad she wasn't around to see our lovely mother slipping into hell. I tried to get help for Mum. Dr. Stevens would come by once a week to check on her. She would sit and stare at the TV while he tried in vain to get her to open up and speak with him. He was a decent man, but his psychology skills left a lot to be desired. He did his best. I had to hire someone to help me look after Mum. I found a nurse recently emigrated from Jamaica named Tina. She was great with Mum, and it gave me peace of mind knowing she was at home with her while I was at work. One day I came home, the house smelled terrible. Tina was burning something in the backyard. It smelled like horse dung. I threw a bucket of water over it and she got upset. She said there was a duppy in the house and she was trying to get rid of it. Apparently a duppy is some sort of ghost that had taken the form of my dad. She was trying to expel it from the house to save my mother. I told her not to be silly. Things like that don't exist. But Tina was adamant about it. It didn't go so well after that, and she started not showing up for work. I tracked her down, but Tina told me she had to leave. I even offered her more money. She said she would only come back if I would let an Obeah man into the house to deal with the duppy. She was still upset. I could see her shaking. She never came back. My sister graduated and soon got a part in a Broadway show. Then that same year, she came home for Christmas to celebrate with us and bought Mum and me fancy gifts from New York. She also arrived with a gift of her own, a fiancé named David. I can still see them now the day they arrived, walking up the front garden path smiling arm in arm. I had some exciting news of my own to share that year. I found out that the guy who bought Dad's insurance business was retiring. I made him an offer for it and he accepted. The building still had our name on it. There was a lot more competition in the insurance game in town these days, but I had learned from the master. I couldn't wait to start in the new year. Things had come full circle and were looking up for once. It seemed like this could be the best Christmas since Dad died. Mum was not in a good way the week leading up to Christmas. Tina leaving had upset her. The nightmares and visions had gotten worse. I would sometimes lay awake at night listening to her have full-on conversations with Dad about mundane things like cleaning the car or cutting the grass. It seemed like her life had stopped the second he died. She couldn't move on. I warned Leslie that Mum's appearance might shock her. As luck would have it, she informed me that David was a doctor with his own practice in New York. He wanted to help Mum. After years of struggle and pain, it seemed like the old days were coming back again. Well, maybe just a little. I told Mum that Leslie was coming to stay and bringing her fiancé with her. She turned and smiled. "I could have told you that, honey. Dad told me yesterday. This fiancé sounds like a keeper. A doctor. What with that and you running the old business again? Gonna be a big one this year, Charlie. Make sure you get plenty of booze in. You know how all the neighbors like to stop in over the holidays for a drink and a mince pie. Get me a refill, please, darling." Reality was that the neighbors hadn't stopped by in years. Mum's occasional lucidity gave me hope that somehow we could drag her out of the hell she was in. When she told me about the things Dad had said to her, I thought she must have been listening to me on the phone or reading my letters from Leslie. That's how she knew what was going on. Her drunken state made her think that it was Dad telling her these things. It seemed like she was too far gone. I didn't want to think about it. 20 seconds in the door and Leslie and I were making fun of each other like only siblings can. David was a delight. He went over and sat and talked to Mum. First of all, she ignored him and stared at the TV. But after an hour, she came to life and started chatting with him. Leslie and I withdrew into the kitchen so we didn't distract her. It was a beautiful thing to see. There was a knock at the door. It was several of the old neighbors and some kids from the local school drama club, the same one Leslie went to as a kid. They had read a story about her being on Broadway and coming home for Christmas in the local paper. They wanted to come by and congratulate her. I couldn't believe it. My little sister is famous and has fans. We invited them in. Mum walked out into the hallway and said, "I told you everyone would come by. Come in, come in. I hope you got the mince pies, Charlie." I didn't know what was going on, so I went along with it and enjoyed the moment. Everyone followed Mum into the front room. Leslie and I handed out food and drinks. It was like stepping back in time. There was noise, music, laughing, and Leslie got up and belted out a few requests while I banged away at the piano. After a couple of hours, everyone left. We said goodbye and walked back into the front room. Mum sat back in her chair and stared at the TV again. I looked at David. Mum comes alive now and then, but nothing like what just happened. What did you do? He took a second before he replied. Not much. I only spoke to your mum. From what you told Leslie, I was expecting her to have early onset dementia, but she hasn't. It seems to be some sort of self-induced cognitive trance. She shuts down and is in her own world, or some other world. People who go into these types of trance can have enhanced sensory perception. They can access parts of their brain that we can't. They feel heightened pain and perceive space and time modification. It all sounds a bit X-Files to me, David. So what you're saying is she's in another world in her mind. She knows what's going on around her in our world, but there's another reality she lives in most of the time. She is certain your dad is in there with her. They speak every day. He sleeps with her at night. In that reality, everything is fine. Your dad never died. To get there, she needs a trigger. Unfortunately for her, it's alcohol. She could be in some sort of paranormal realm that we don't understand. How do you know so much about this stuff, David? I worked for a time in a nursing home. I saw a lot of unexplained things, especially with people close to death. So I took an interest in the paranormal and wrote a paper on it. As a doctor, I deal in science, but I also see things every day that science cannot explain. As a young student, I laughed at ideas like reincarnation. Faith healing, psychic forces, and human energy fields seemed like fiction. But I've experienced too many unexplained things to not take them seriously. Even if all these things are real, why now? Seems like she came back here for a visit, which is what you often witness. She came here and wowed the neighbors and her family. I don't know what triggered it. Could be Leslie coming home. Her daughter is getting married after all. The neighbors showing up. Leslie told me how your mum was the life and soul of the party. This was her time to shine once again. Her last hurrah. She may well have been running on autopilot, unaware of what she was doing. It could have all added up to the perfect storm that brought her back that strong. So Mum talking to Dad at night, or telling me he's next to me and asking why I don't speak to him anymore. These events are as real to her as you and I speaking right now. Whatever it is she's experiencing, it could be something like your dad's life after death. Wherever she goes in her mind, it's as real as that chair is to you and I. When she's in our reality, she may see your dad's aura in her heightened state. It might confuse her because no one else can see it. That was the last Christmas we all spent together. Mum died a few weeks later. That day was her last hurrah. Leslie came back for the funeral, and I flew out to New York for her wedding. I like to think that Mum went wherever Dad is and they're waiting there watching over us, but I don't believe it. I've been in the house alone ever since. I still own the insurance business, but I have people who run it for me, so I don't go out much these days. Sometimes at night I hear Mum's voice, or her and Dad laughing and joking, but I know it's only a dream. I think it is anyway. I sit at the window watching the people walk by, the mums looking away and speeding up to get past the scary house. The kids running when they see the evil old man waiting to catch and eat one of them. If you want even more scares, then check out this next video. Also, don't forget to subscribe.